Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of the Essays
An Espresso podcast.
Why are you interrupting?
I'd like to be a
Why
part.
are you interrupting?
I'd like to be more active in making this.
Why?
I don't know. I feel it's what the people want.
How would you know what the people want?
I read the comments. I read all the comments.
I read them too.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I
I
thought.
think the comments on the last video definitely agreed with me on just about everything.
I'm just...
Are you sure about that?
I'm
like,
pretty
even
sure
if
about
they
that.
did, you just were wrong. We're never going to open up the Picard well again. But you are wrong. Like, there is nothing more to be debated on that front. His name isn't Picard. His name is Picard.
Yes, his
But
name.
if his name was Picard, then his name would be Picard. You can dislike it, but that's what it is.
That's such a dumb argument. It's just
No, that is
taking
the
people
point.
that are doing it wrong and saying, "Oh, look, they're doing it wrong, therefore it's right because they did it."
No,
Look.
it is his name. His name is Picard.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. It doesn't matter if you don't think it is. He thinks it is.
Look,
He says his name is Picard.
Within the show, yes, that is true, but it shouldn't be like that.
It is. It should be.
No, that's why you're
Yeah.
wrong. It is like that, but it shouldn't be like that.
If he lived in France and he introduced himself as, "Hello, my name is Jean-Luc Picard," then it should be Picard. His name should be what he says his name is.
No, he's not a real person. Do you understand that? There are people who wrote this.
Do you understand that? Do you understand that? It's a fictional character named Picard. His name isn't anything else.
Yeah, but it doesn't. No, he's not named that. He's named that. That doesn't make sense in the context of the world that he's in.
No, okay.
Since when were you a fucking Star Trek savant?
Yeah, but also, if his name is Picard, then yeah, it does make sense in the context of the world he lives in.
No, because he's supposed to be French, and they're fucking up the
Yeah.
French name.
Well, maybe France changed.
France is very different in the future.
What kind of annoys me about this is that Americans are not actually that bad about like juggling a lot of foreign names because their country is so diverse and there are a lot of like immigrants coming there, so a lot of foreign, especially last names, are going around that country all the time, and they're actually decent with just handling those. I don't have to put up with that many foreign names in my life at all because Germany's way more heterogeneous. Is that the word?
Heterogeneous.
Heterogeneous.
Homogeneous.
No, heterogeneous. Whatever. Not homogeneous. The opposite.
I think homogeneous is when everyone is the same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Germany is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Anyways,
yes.
His name is Picard. We
No,
need to
go
move
fuck
beyond
yourself.
this.
You brought that up.
This is the fucking Simon fucking argument.
When I said people agreed with me, I wasn't even talking about that.
Oh, what were you talking about?
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, well, I changed my mind.
Yeah. Also aluminum.
See, that's another one which is incorrect, though. Like, it is acceptable to say aluminum in America.
It is not acceptable on this podcast.
It's
We're
like-
not in America.
I'm in America.
Most of our viewers are in America.
Are you sure?
Yes.
You sure Florida is... Well,
In
Wait, are you
America?
questioning whether Florida is a part of America?
I'm sure a lot of people would gladly see Florida gone from America.
Oh.
I don't know how to take that.
That's not, I didn't make that.
See, he's moving the
I'm just the messenger here.
He's moving
Is
the
that an
goalpost.
insinuation
Daniel,
about just Florida or me?
No,
Daniel,
that's
he's tricking
Florida.
you. He's tricking you. We won the aluminum argument, and now he's talking about Florida. Don't listen to side of the target.
I'm feeling personally attacked.
Also, the listener will have listened to another podcast in between this and that episode, so
Who cares?
True.
we should move on.
Should we?
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of stuff together, haven't we? Why, Daniel?
Wait,
I
together?
see here. I see
What
here.
do you mean by together?
Shut up. I see here on the Google Doc that you've been doing something called Adios.
We have not yet announced
wait
our
a second.
essay topic.
The
Wait a
essay-
second.
Acer
Why-
Aesthetics from Iceland.
Why Acer, why the fuck are you doing my job?
I felt like you kind of dropped the ball for the last 5 minutes, and someone needed to step up.
Oh, shut up. Okay, okay, fine. If you want to be host, go ahead. Take the reins, good sir.
What was the essay topic again?
It was gameplay versus
Oh, gameplay versus story.
with a question mark.
Bogan added the question mark. You wanted to contribute.
So you have to change your intonation at the end. So you're like, gameplay versus story?
So whenever I do these hosting duties, everybody loves to just go wild, go crazy, and it becomes really unfocused. But I'm a good host, so I'm gonna manage this much better than you do, Daniel. Gameplay versus
we'll see
story
about that.
is the topic. You can jump ahead in the description if you want. But until then, somebody has been playing Adios, or reading it. Maybe they watched it. What is it?
Yes. Okay, so that was me. It's a game, and it's pronounced Adios. It's Spanish for goodbye.
Now, are you sure that it's not called Adios?
Considering I speak Spanish,
Well, if it's a
Yeah,
Spanish
but-
game, it's
But
it's
what about
Adios.
America, though? Maybe they have a different idea of how to pronounce that.
See, Bogan, this isn't even the same argument I was making.
see, this doesn't make any sense because we're talking about the name of a person versus a word. You know, a person can name themselves whatever the fuck they want. Like if your mother really fucking wanted to, she could have named you, Buttface. That could have been your name.
Assuming Germany
legally.
doesn't
Legally.
What about aluminum? That's not a name of a person.
No, that's a
Well,
word.
but words can be colloquially different between different cultures.
Okay, you just made my point.
Well, adios is not colloquially different between
adios-
cultures.
Adios is a Spanish word for goodbye. That's it.
What's it about, Daniel?
Anyways,
Stop. You're not allowed to bring this up again. I'm bringing a moratorium on this.
would you guys like to know what Adios is?
Yes.
Okay. So it's one of those walking sim type games, very short. I was able to beat it in under an hour and a half. And compared to the last episode, I talked about a game called Sagebrush. That game had considerably more actual like walking around in it and had like some very minor puzzles here and there. Adios, by comparison, is like extremely more character and dialogue driven. So you play as a pig farmer, and he secretly works for the mafia, and a hitman comes by so that the farmer can hide bodies for him. And the farmer is done. He doesn't want to do this shit anymore. He's tired of it. And so the majority of the game is him and the hitman talking with each other, going around the farm, doing chores. The farmer's like reminiscing his life, and the hitman is like trying to talk him out of it and be like, hey, it's not a good idea to say that you don't want to do this anymore. there is no you're done. This is just what we do. You don't want to do this. And throughout the game, you have dialogue options, and you can like talk to the hitman and tell him, like your typical type of like Telltale type of game. You have like, you could say this thing or another. But one thing I think was really interesting is that there are times where you can't pick a certain option. So I'm sure I'm sure the two of you are familiar with like typically in a Western RPG where, if you just had enough intelligence, if you just had enough charisma, if your persuasion stat was high enough, you would be able to click those options and you would be able to see what that option would lead to. This is not the case in this game, at least as far as what I've seen in the playthrough that I did. I don't know if it changes on a second playthrough. I don't think so. But there are certain options that you can't pick ever. And what I think is really interesting about these is the implication is that your character is thinking these things, but refuses to actually say it. And
Yeah,
I think that adds like another layer to the character. There's one part which I think is the highlight of the game where he's having a phone call with his son, and they're arguing about something. I'm not going to get into it. You should play it. But there's one option that's grayed out. You can't click it. And the option is like, it goes on so long, it actually like cuts off at some point at the edge of the screen because like the character is so emotional over the topic, and that specific thought, like it goes on for so long that like, because he feels so much and there's so many memories attached to it that he can't even properly finish the thought.
Are the options you can't pick, are they grayed out, or can you pick them and then he just tells you no or says something else?
They're grayed out, and if you try to pick it, he'll just grumble to himself and he won't say it. You have to pick the option in white.
Okay. It's like in Unfriended, where because the movie is filmed from the chat perspective of one of the characters, you can see that character sometimes typing out a reply and then delete the reply and write something else, but you know what she's really thinking?
You would have watched Unfriended.
No, I haven't watched it, but I know about that. And that's the one neat concept that you can gain from that.
So I would definitely recommend this game. I kind of feel like I've already said too much because it is a very short game. It's only like an hour and a half. But hopefully what I said intrigues anyone listening to give it a shot. The writer of the game is a individual by the name of @DocSquiddy. He's a cool guy. He also wrote another game called Paratopic, which I also really liked. I would say to please support him and buy the game and try it out. I think it's. I'm not just pimping it out just because I like the guy.
Are you being paid? Is this a paid advertisement?
This is not. I promise it's not. He doesn't know I'm doing this.
I'll have to get a look at your PayPal transaction history.
I literally learned about DocSquiddy 2 days ago because he retweeted a tweet of mine.
Who is this?
I had no idea who that was otherwise.
Yeah, I actually saw that he retweeted your tweet. So yeah, that's him. Like I said, cool guy. And I think he's a very good writer. And I think that shows in Adios. I think he crafted a really compelling story within such a short amount of time. You know, because again, you could beat this game easily in like an hour and a half. Like it's a pretty short game. And within that time, while I wasn't quite at like tears or anything like that. There were points that really tugged at my heartstrings, and there were points where I was like, oh, that hit me. Like, there were points that really did make me feel emotional. And no promises, but I have like finishing the game did make me want to like make a video on it, because I feel like a lot of the game has to do with the idea of things coming to an end, and leaving things unresolved. So, and I think there's a lot to talk about there. So,
all right.
Yes. Please give Adios a shot. It's really good. Aside from that, I also listened to an audiobook called Ner Do Well, which is basically just an autobiography by Simon Pegg. Yeah, for those that don't know, he's Shaun from Shaun of the Dead.
He's oh no, I was gonna make a dumb joke. Nothing.
No, go ahead.
He is Peck from Simon Peck.
You're right, that is a bad joke.
Told ya.
Really bad joke. Yeah, let's see. He was also in Hot Fuzz. What else was he in?
He's from The Boys.
Are you explaining to people who Simon Pegg is?
Some people don't know who he is. I mean, you have to understand, our audience are a bunch of gamers. They may not be as well read in movies and actors.
Yeah, definitely.
Just saying.
Anyways, what's the book about?
So half of it is about his life, and the other half is like this kind of ridiculous, like over the top James Bond story that he made up. And it's a fun little book. I enjoyed it. Like, cause he felt insecure about writing about his life. So it goes back and forth between like, okay, here's stuff that happened to me. And then he's like, but here's this dumb story about like my self-insert with like a robot butler named Cunningham. And me having like awesome sex with this like French cat burglar lady. Like it's just kind of like stupid and ridiculous, but like in a fun, like tongue in cheek sort of way.
Interesting.
Yeah. If you're a fan, if you're like interested in like these autobiography type stuff, and you're a fan of Simon Pegg, then I'd say it's worth checking out. It's very short for an audiobook. It's only like 4 hours long to listen to. So, it's nice. Not something I think you should go out of your way for, but it's nice. I didn't write it down here, but I also listened to, because it's like in a similar vein, I also listened to the audiobook I Am Spock by Leonard Nimoy, which is similarly a book about... That one wasn't like about his entire life. It actually starts with him like auditioning for Star Trek. And it sort of ends around like Star Trek Generations, the book. And him talking about directing Three Men and a Baby and another movie, I think it was called Good Mother, I think it was called. Something like that.
You should have done your research.
I guess I should have. I Am Spock was no offense to Simon Pegg, I thought Simon's I Am Spock was a better book. Leonard Nimoy does something I think was like really fun and entertaining throughout the book, where he would have conversations with himself as Spock. So like he would have a back and forth as Leonard Nimoy and Spock. So he would ask Spock like, so Spock, how did you feel about, being so popular? And then Spock would respond, I am a Vulcan. I do not have feelings. Sorry, Spock, I didn't mean to offend you. No offense taken.
Does he read it? Did he read it before he passed away?
Yes, he did.
Nice. He has a good voice. Had a good voice.
He has an amazing voice. It was great listening to him talk to himself. It was a really good book. I really enjoyed it, and as a fan, particularly of like Wrath of Khan and like those 3 Star Trek movies in particular, 2, 3, and 4. I don't really care about the other ones that much. It was great to hear him talk about the making of those movies and being a part of them, and particularly directing 3 and 4. Like that was really great. I wish he went into a little bit more detail, but it wasn't really about that specifically. But it was still really nice to hear. So if you're particularly a fan of those movies, then I would definitely suggest picking up the book. Like, because I am far from like a Star Trek nerd. Like, I'm pretty casual when it comes to Star Trek, but even I was able to enjoy the book a lot and get a lot out of it.
Do you wish William Shatner would have passed away instead of Leonard Nimoy?
Oh, that's a fucked up thing to say.
I enjoy Bill, but
I'm not gonna say.
What about Sulu, George Takei? Would you rather he have died than Leonard Nimoy?
I'd rather none of them have died at all.
Well, people die. It happens.
It does happen.
Yes.
See Leonard Nimoy.
But yeah, that's all I've been into. Not too much recently. No. I mean, aside from Final Fantasy 14, but I've been banned from talking about that.
Yes.
No. Actually.
See,
here's a plot twist.
I hesitate to ask, Bogan, what have you been doing?
I have been playing World of Warcraft. And because there's way too much to talk about at this point. Like I've been sucking up World of Warcraft for 3 months now. Holy shit.
Okay.
And I thought instead, why not talk to Daniel about the differences between Final Fantasy XIV and World of Warcraft.
Okay. This I'll let it happen, but Bogan, you have 5 other things on the dock.
To be fair, okay, wait a minute. To be fair, 4 of those things are actually just the same fucking thing.
Yeah, just be economical with people's time here. I don't want to sit here for an hour listening to you talk about MMOs.
Okay, so just to be clear, I've never played World of Warcraft. So
I never played Final Fantasy XIV.
All right then.
This is
I'll try to answer
start.
as best I can.
I'm generally curious. I've seen some Final Fantasy XIV gameplay, but people claim that game has an amazing story or multiple amazing stories, depending on the expansion or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why or how, because World of Warcraft story is fucking trash, and I feel like it has to be by default.
So World of Warcraft story was what?
How much time you got?
Okay, so you're saying you're saying it's so bad that you're thinking that people are only saying that the story in 14 is good by compared to World of Warcraft.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying World of Warcraft has bad writers who only know how to write either like purely evil characters or characters who are corrupted in some way. Like that is the World of Warcraft villain formula, is either they're just an evil entity or
what was the deal with the Lich King?
Corrupted by some evil entity, or they've gone mad.
What was the Lich King's deal?
The Lich King's deal was he's actually from Arthas from Warcraft 3, back when Warcraft had a good story. Arthas was a young prince who also got corrupted by an evil entity, but his corruption actually made a little bit of sense because he had to deal with a lot of shit, and then he made a bunch of bad decisions, and the sword, the evil sword with the voice of the Lich King trapped within, actually, like, talked him into being evil.
Okay, he hyped him into it.
Okay, so just to say real quick, that's not the case in Final Fantasy XIV. The villains are not just evil for the sake of being evil, and they're not corrupted by something that makes them evil. They are antagonists. They are not just they do go about things in morally questionable ways, but what they do is understandable. Now, I will say, so just to be clear, I've beaten the main game, A Realm Reborn. I've beaten the first expansion, Heaven's Ward, and I'm halfway through the second expansion, Stormblood. I have not gotten to Shadowbringers yet, which is the current expansion, and in July, Endwalker comes out. So I cannot speak for...
So you have not raided at all?
What? I've raided before. What does that have to do with anything?
Well, I don't know. Like, if you want to raid in World of Warcraft, then you need to get to the current expansion.
You don't need to in Final Fantasy XIV.
Okay. Are the raids then really easy, or...?
No, they're not.
Huh. Okay, weird.
I guess I don't know how raids work in World of Warcraft, but that's not how they work in 14.
Well, the game is balanced for the current raid tier, and then I can go to old raids and basically solo them at this point.
Well, when you do older content in Final Fantasy 14, it level syncs you. So a raid that came out during the base game, you will be leveled down to level 50, so that you could still do the raid, and it's still challenging. Although I don't know if you can do it with raids, but you can do content unsynced if you want to.
Okay, I mean that is also part in World of Warcraft, but there are like time walking raids, which occasionally once a month or something you can do a scaled, downscaled, or upscaled version in this case of a very old raid, and you need an actual raid group.
So real quick, without going too deep into it, the villains, quote unquote, in Heaven's Ward, for example, you're basically fighting against the Pope, I guess, like. Because the way that it works there, you go to Ishgard, and everything is like steeped in like centuries worth of history, and the Ishgardian people are at war with the dragons, and the reason is because, hundreds of years ago, there's this history that has gone on that most people think happened one way, but it was obscured over time as a way of making the Ishgardian people look like they were actually in the right, when in actuality they weren't. So not only that, but the hierarchy of royalty in Ishgard is such a way because of this obfuscation. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to bring to light the truth, what actually happened. But the concern is that if you were to do that, it would throw their entire society out of whack, because the whole hierarchy of royalty is predicated on this lie. So, and if you were to come in and just expose, like, no, this is all bullshit, then their whole society would just go out of whack. So you can't really say that the villains are just evil for the sake of being evil. They actually have a very good reason to stop you, because they think that you're just going to completely destroy their society.
Okay. And
so I spoiled a lot there, but I was just trying to get across, like, no, the villains in FF14 are not evil for the sake of evil. They're not being corrupted by some whatever. Like,
but is that just the story of the overall game, or like one expansion?
No, this is specifically the story of Heaven's Ward, but each of the stories of each expansion are connected to each other. It's all an overarching story. The events that happen in the base game, A Realm Reborn, lead into the events of Heaven's Ward.
Okay.
So, Bogan, what is a Jujutsu Kaisen?
And I've seen you fight a lot of like bosses from old Final Fantasy games. Kefka, for example, I've seen that. I think there's a fight against.
I have not fought against Kefka.
I think there's a fight against Tiamat.
I haven't fought Tiamat, but I have fought Ifrit. I've fought Leviathan. I've fought Titan. And a lot of these like traditional summons from Final Fantasy games, they're treated as gods.
Well, okay, those are returning in also other Final Fantasy games, so I guess it makes sense that you would fight one version of them.
Yeah, in this game, in Final Fantasy XIV, they're called primals, and each of the different beast tribes summon them when they feel that they're being threatened in order to fight back. And you have to come in there and defeat them because otherwise they would just like wreak havoc.
Okay. It's just, it's difficult to gauge Final Fantasy XIV from the outside because, you know, seeing a fight against Kefka, I cannot fathom what the story reason behind that would be. And then it just looks like a fan service fight, but I don't know if it is.
I haven't gotten there yet. I can't comment. Like, I have not seen anything in the game that's yeah, I've not seen like anything like that blatant yet. So I would have to imagine that Kefka is like an optional thing that, yeah, maybe it is like a fan service thing. I don't know. I haven't seen that yet.
Because that's the issue with World of Warcraft also, is just repeating the same fucking characters over and over. And there are some new ones, and the story does go somewhere sometimes, usually to very bad places, but how often do I need to fucking fight Sargeras or Archimond? You know, like, how often do they need to be raid bosses?
Well, I can tell you in 14 that, like, whenever I fight a new boss, it's almost always something new. Like, it's almost always like, this is a new character, or this is a new boss fight. Like, it's
okay, so Bogan, would you say there is substance to World of Warcraft, or is it just a time sink?
Of course there's substance.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on what you want from the game. If you want to be a mythic raider and raid the hardest content, like, aside from, I mean, World of Warcraft started that shit and revolutionized gaming. And you will not find a lot of games where you can get 20 people and fight incredibly hard bosses that require that amount of team coordination.
So what's Jujutsu Kaisen about?
Stop this.
But yeah, so if you have a concern in FF14 that, like, oh, you're just going to be fighting the same bosses over and over again, like, that's not really the case. Like, there are times where you might fight a boss again, but, like, you're very rarely forced to. It's almost always because you want to fight like a harder version of that boss because you feel like it. It's never mandated.
It's not even necessarily that it's always the same bosses. It's more like the World of Warcraft feels so static in its entire conflict. Because like the Warcraft world basically has a bunch of evil super forces. One of them are like the old gods, the old ones or whatever. And then you have the Burning Legion, which is just a bunch of demons from another dimension. And then you have, I don't know, the Undead and the Lich King, of course, are one. And all of these have been there since Warcraft 3. I guess the old ones not as much, but they were introduced in the first World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft, and it's just like returning. Oh no! Now this old god is threatening the world, and oh no, the Legion have found another way to enter the world again. And it's like you can never defeat them because they're just going to be banished back to their world, or you can never defeat an old one because you're just fighting a small fragment of their power. And it's so, I don't know where the story is supposed to go. And then what I find with just MMOs, and I don't know if this is the case for FF14 as well, but you can only go so far when you introduced the concept of killing a god in the first game, right? Like the old ones who actually are sort of responsible for shaping the world. You basically fight the first old god in World of Warcraft vanilla, and you defeat that thing, and then I don't know, you fight another one in Wrath of the Lich King, and it's like, okay, we've done the whole fight the giant monster with 40 people and save the world. Where can we go now? There is nowhere to go. You can just fight other giant things. There's not enough room to really develop a lot there.
So FF14 has something similar. They're called the Ascians, but they're more like these manipulators in the background. So that's not to say that they're like omniscient and they can just do whatever. Like you, as the warrior of light, do things that make them go like, Jesus Christ, this fucking warrior of light's really giving a shit. But they are like in the background doing these machinations and stuff, and they are very hard to kill. Now that I think about it, I was able to kill one of them, and that actually like freaked them out. They're like, holy shit, how are they able to do that? But they're very elusive, and they're like at this point in the story for me, they're still steeped in a lot of mystery. So like, I'm not like totally sure what they are yet. But slowly as I'm going through the game, I am learning more about them, and I'm slowly starting to get what their deal is. And I'm hoping either in the next expansion or maybe in Endwalker, which supposedly is going to wrap up the story, we'll finally understand like what their deal is. Or maybe I'll learn what their deal is in Shadowbringers. I don't know yet. So
wait, there's going to be a wrap up to the story in an MMO?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes, and it's called Endwalker for a reason. They're going to wrap up the story.
Okay.
They say that it's not going to be the end of the game or the end to like
they're just going to start the next story.
Yeah, I think the idea is that like this story arc is going to see its completion, and they might do more later. We'll see. But yeah. I think that's pretty cool. One thing that I've heard about in World of Warcraft that is very different in FF14 is I hear that in World of Warcraft your main character is like a nobody, and that like they're very rarely acknowledged in the story. Is that true?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, they acknowledge that you come in groups usually, but they also call you, the champion, or in this game, it's the Maw Walker because only you can traverse the Maw, which is this new area where the big bad resides in Shadowlands. No, but it fluctuates between the big one who saved us 20 times last year comes through, and then at the same time, well, actually we have all these other characters who are the real leaders, and we're just enabling them to do shit. So that's why I think just at least World of Warcraft as an MMO is not a great tool to actually tell a story. It's a great tool to develop a game and build a world, but storytelling,
Okay, because in FF14, while you do have a silent protagonist, You do have a few dialogue options here and there, but otherwise your character is actually very important. You are the warrior of light. And something that I really appreciate about the game is that your accomplishments are always acknowledged. So, and then
but
that's
then
one thing.
What do they do about the other 40 warriors of the light in the same room?
See, that's the one problem, is they kind of ignore that.
Yeah, okay, so that's not bad at all.
What is it?
That doesn't sound bad at all. They do acknowledge what you did in World of Warcraft in previous expansions, but you also show up with 40 other people who did the same thing.
Yeah, it is a little weird in FF14 where they kind of acknowledge them at times, but it's mostly attributed to you.
So they say, "Oh, I'm glad you're here," and then it's like 40 people looking at each other. Who?
Yeah, kind of. That I mean, I can forgive it though, but I think at the same time though, it does do a good job of like. Because at the very beginning of the game, you're literally a nobody. But as you play through the game and you start like defeating the primals and you start like, making waves in the story, characters will turn to you and be like, "Oh shit, you're fucking, you just slayed Shiva, you slayed Ifrit, you slayed Titan. You're a badass. You're awesome." And because of that, people start to acknowledge you as the warrior of light, and people start coming to you and they're like, "Oh my God, you're the warrior of light. You have all these accomplishments." And because your character can be any class, you can't really do much in cutscenes. So your character, like during cutscenes, is a little static. But at the same time, that just means that like all of your accomplishments are things that you as a player have done. And I feel that, that makes me feel like I have a lot of agency in the story.
Okay.
Do you concur, Bogan?
Yeah, sounds about like it's in World of Warcraft.
All right. I think we should stop it here before Acer like blows his brains out.
What?
Unless you had any other questions, Boken?
No, it's fine. We can return to this next time.
All right.
Let's make this a weekly thing.
No, let's not, please. So, do you still want to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen?
Yes, okay, Jujutsu Kaisen.
That's that new anime that people are talking about.
Well, it's now, the season is finished. It finished. That's why I can talk about it now.
Oh.
But yes,
How was
it is.
You love watching seasonal anime.
I do, and I loved watching Jujutsu Kaisen. It was an absolute pleasure.
What is it about?
It's basically it's just shonen. Like it's not that deep, I think, so far. I don't even have that much to say about it. Like I think. It has great characters, but I couldn't say that any of them are particularly deep. It is just, I don't remember the last time I've had this much fun just watching a show. This is like just the energy that it has and the quirkiness and especially the animation and the battle choreographies are so fucking good. That I was looking forward to every episode. And this aired over the last couple of months, always on Fridays. And, during the pandemic now, also we Fridays had...
Way to date the podcast.
We also had Haikyuu Season 5 airing not so long ago. And like every fucking Friday was a highlight of my week. Because I knew... The last hour before I would be going to bed was just Jujutsu Kaisen and Haikyuu. And I was looking forward to that every single week. Because, I don't know, the characters are so instantly lovable. And I have not seen that level of animation in an anime. I'm like, outside of actual movies, which have way higher budgets. The animation level is crazy. I don't know I hope this is the new goal for new projects in the anime scene. I don't know. But yeah, just fantastic all around. I would highly recommend that. And they've done so much shit with just different animation techniques, and then there's a lot of whatever, like perspective shots where you just, you see from the perspective of a character as he's pummeling another character, and you just see the fists flying and the kicks.
That sounds cool.
It looks so good. Like the impact of every strike is there, and then
that reminds me of a sequence from Gundam Thunderbolt where there's a recording of a pilot getting attacked by the Gundam as like the Zeons are watching it, and it's like one of the best sequences in that anime.
Yeah,
so it kind of reminds me of that.
That perspective sometimes has the issue that it just, I don't know, it looks kind of whatever when it's supposed to look like he's dodging stuff, but it just looks like everything is flying past the character when it's first-person perspective. In Jujutsu Kaisen, though, like I'm thinking of one particular scene where it's sort of two characters fighting, and one of them is supposed to have the upper hand, and the first-person perspective is used in a way where you're watching the stronger character as he keeps just, fists flying out, hitting over and over. And you can see the other character in his vision barely just dodging or blocking. Like every time that other character blocks an attack, the impact of the strike is so hard that the other character's hands are like flying in the air, and he can barely get them down again to block the next attack. And it just, when you want to portray how much stronger the one character is over the other, that is a perfect way to do it. It's really well animated.
Cool.
Yeah, I think you should watch that. It's pretty fantastic.
I'll keep it into consideration.
Just some of the characters are so weird, but
I mean, it's anime. Anime is weird in general.
Yeah, but the one character in particular is he starts a fight because he asks the one character what type of women he likes, and then the other character is like, well, I like women who have a strong personality and a strong will. And then the other character's like, well, you're a boring fucker. I'm gonna pummel you to the ground now. And then that fight starts. And then that same character asks the main character what type of woman he likes, and he's like, Jennifer Lawrence? and then the other character is like, perfect answer, we're best friends now. And then they actually become best friends, and he's super clingy within 5 minutes.
No.
They're like best buddies, and the main character is super weirded out. But then they have a fight together, and it's the best fight of the whole season. And he helps the main character so much in like understanding his powers and getting stronger and being a great teacher. This weirdo fucking social outcast. It's so enjoyable.
Wait, Jennifer Lawrence exists in this show? What?
Yeah, they actually say Jennifer Lawrence.
What? So is this a contemporary anime?
Yeah, it is. But it also has weird curse powers and the hidden society of mages.
Oh, so like it's just like Fate then.
Yes, I guess. Yes.
I see.
But Jennifer Lawrence does exist.
Well, she's pretty cute, so I can't really deny that answer.
Jennifer Lawrence.
Yes.
She is astonishingly average.
Fuck off.
And she's also not a good actress.
That's such a fucking dick thing to say. Jesus.
5 out of 10.
No, I'm not saying that. But like, if you're looking at a beautiful woman, I don't know.
Well, I mean, he's not asking like, oh, who do you think is the most beautiful woman? He's like, oh, who's like your ideal woman?
Isn't Jennifer Lawrence also like strong and independent? What? Why does he not accept strong and independent, but he accepts Jennifer Lawrence as an answer?
Because the first guy is like, oh, I don't care about how a woman looks.
Oh.
I just want her to be to have a great personality.
Oh.
You know, like a nerd answer.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And he's like, you go fuck yourself.
As opposed to the main character who gives a more specific answer
Yeah.
rather than something vague and nothing.
Determined. Knows what he wants. Interesting.
Mm.
Did you
And
watch
then-
X-Men, The Dark Phoenix? Jennifer Lawrence is in that.
Yes, she is also in other X-Men movies.
Yes. But she's specifically in that one. She dies in that one.
Well, talking about spoilers.
Who cares?
Uh,
It's a terrible movie.
there's also a panda in Jujutsu Kaisen. for
There's
some
also
reason.
pandas in World of Warcraft.
There's also a panda. There are also pandas in World of Warcraft, yes.
That's true. You can do like karate with them.
Kung Fu pandas, yes.
Yes, you can do karate with them. They live in a snow mountain. I think their enemies
No,
are
yes,
like.
well-
I think their enemies are purple panther people. I'm pretty sure.
No.
I'm pretty sure though.
They... Is that a joke? That a reference to something?
It's just a joke.
Okay.
I don't know anything. I
The
just know that
pandas
they're
live on a
panthers.
hidden island called Pandaria, which
What's it named
becomes... yeah.
after? Yeah.
Actually, the Mists of Pandaria expansion in World of Warcraft is supposed to be pretty good story-wise because it opens up about a bunch of lore about like hidden energy powers and shit and emotions, and
Ugh.
Garroshell Scream raids Pandaria to find an ancient heart of the forces there.
Yeah. Does
And
Palpatine
then-
come back?
No.
No. It can't be that good then.
Who's the Palpatine of World of Warcraft?
Palpatine? I don't know.
But yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen, fantastic anime. Would recommend. 9 out of 10.
Cool.
I know Daniel really likes anime.
Sometimes.
He's a big fan. He has
Sometimes.
he has a pillow from C2 from Code Geass.
No.
Oh,
No pillows.
okay. You were pretty defensive about that, but okay.
No pillows.
Okay.
I've
I,
also
uh,
watched a movie called Wrong Turn,
Oh, how
which was surprisingly good, actually.
that? Really?
Yeah.
Is this
Which
Neil
is-
Breen or something? Is this crap like that?
No, this is
No,
just a pretty normal horror movie. It's
Oh, okay.
to be specific, a cannibal hillbilly horror movie of
Okay.
people being lost in the woods with a bunch of hillbillies who also eat human meat, hunting them.
Well,
And
That's implied by them being cannibals.
yes. Funnily enough, I haven't watched it yet, but there's a Ryan Hollinger video that also, like, from the title, I could tell it says, oh, Wrong Turn 1 is actually a good movie. And I watched it, and I can totally see why. Like, it is actually the monsters or the hillbillies feel scary. The characters are somewhat relatable, and they're not dumbasses. And there are a lot of, like, it's not just a typical slasher, oh, one guy leaves the group and then gets killed, and then the rest gets killed one by one, but instead it's just like, you know, scenes and what is it called? Set pieces. Just things develop. There's a point where they're in the house of the cannibals and they need to escape. And then they escape in a good sequence, and then they run to the forest, and then they come across like an observation tower built there, and then they try to hide there. And then the cannibals start lighting a fire to get them out of there because they can't reach them. And then they need to jump into the trees and escape that way. And that's a fun sequence. And It's just things happen in a logical progression, and it's not just a slasher movie.
How, by what cosmic events have you decided to sit down and watch a movie that turns out to not be trash? What's going on here?
Pure coincidence, because I
Okay.
was setting out to watch trash, and then it turned out to actually be a decent movie.
But
Okay.
did that continue with the sequels?
Well, no. The sequels are fucking awful. But some of them are entertaining. At least so far. I still have 3 sequels to go.
My God.
Yes, but...
So, like, is it like a steady decline in quality?
No, actually, it's a massive drop to Wrong Turn 2.
So, Wrong Turn 2 is just like trash.
Yes. Well, it's annoying trash. That's the bad part. And all of them are then just like, nobody cares. There are no more atmosphere building shots. Everyone knows there's just cannibals running around, and then the cannibals come and they gorily kill people. They're actually, it's not every time it's just a group of people running around the woods. It's actually, in the second movie, it's a reality show where they're supposed to survive in the woods, and there's a...
That's not a dumb premise.
No, but it is very dumb.
Poorly executed, I guess.
Yes.
Now, my sister really loves horror movies, so I think I might recommend her the first one.
Does she love bad horror movies? Because
Yes.
then you should recommend her the fourth one.
The fourth one?
Yeah,
also-
Bloody Beginnings?
Bloody Beginnings.
I also watched a bad horror movie, which you could recommend to her. But
And
I'll let Bogan finish.
what would that be?
It was called The Shining.
It was called... No, I like The Shining. It's just boring. Are you done with your cannibal movies, Bogan?
Well, no, I don't.
No?
I don't know. You can talk about this or not.
Well,
My point is that it's not just a group of teenagers gets lost in the woods.
Okay.
The second one is about a group of reality TV people being lost in the woods, and they are still not entirely sure if it's the crew fucking with them or whatever, and that takes a while. The second one just has the most annoying asshole characters, and that's what makes it ugly. And then the third one is a group of like a bunch of prison inmates, and the cannibals actually ram the transport vehicle. They were supposed to get to another prison, and they just ram the vehicle, like the transport, and then they're free. And it's actually somewhat fun because it's a group of immoral assholes that tries to get out of the woods, but also like they try to survive, but also take a bunch of money with them. And so they just have a different dynamic than a normal group of teenagers. And then the fourth one plays in an asylum.
There seems to at least be some creativity to these, if nothing else.
Yeah. I only hated the second one because the characters were absolutely unlikable.
Would you watch a horror movie starring me, or would you be like, very unlikable, I can't watch this?
Probably the second one, yes.
Yeah.
So that's Wrong Turn. I still have Wrong Turn 5.
You'll come back to this.
Wrong Turn 5. What is the subtitle? Bloodlines.
Ugh.
I don't know what Bloodlines. Like the cannibals are always a family because they're inbred. So maybe that's the Bloodlines part.
Yeah, maybe.
Wrong Turn 6, Last Resort, which might be about a cannibals. What if they're actually like in an island resort?
Ooh.
And they're terrorizing the people there? That could be fun.
And what's 7?
And then Wrong Turn from 2021, which might be a remake or a reboot.
No.
I'm looking forward to that.
They don't even have a funny title.
Great.
Looking forward to Wrong Turn 2 2023.
They pulled a Halloween. They couldn't do like Wrong Turn X and have it set in space.
Oh, that's coming, I'm sure.
I'd like that. So I watched a pretty bad horror movie. If you go on like IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, they'll tell you, no, this is actually good. They don't know what they're talking about. It's called The Vigil, and it stars this guy. So this movie, it's about this Jewish demon creature who takes hold over people and just sucks their lives out. And the main character is, I think he's a former rabbi, and he is paid, he's like commissioned to stay vigil over a corpse overnight before there's some burial ceremony. Surprise, guys, I'm not Jewish, I'm not 100% on the lingo, but they want somebody to stay watch over the corpse, over the body, while to prevent bad spirits from getting it. But this particular body, corpse, has already been claimed by one of these dark spirits, and dark happenings happen in the night. And Acer watched it and he was like, ooh, what an interesting demon ghost story. But then it became about post-traumatic stress disorder, and it had subtext and themes, and I was like, God damn it, you snuck this up on me. I wanted to see a scary ghost.
These fucking pretentious
filmmakers. Yeah. And like half the movie is in Yiddish. I don't speak Yiddish. But they can't speak English? I'm sure somebody really likes...
I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Thank you. I'm not gonna lie, that it helps hearing that I have sympathy. I'm just... Can't a horror movie just be a horror movie? Can't a ghost just be a ghost? Do we need subtext and everything?
Why is it that I can find one trash movie after the next, and you just stumble into these probable masterpieces and then complain about them?
Yeah. It's strange, isn't it?
You need to vet your movies better, sir.
See, I was told it was just a spooky movie. But, it is what it is. Once again, I've been subtext baited. But I also have been playing a lot of video games. Chiefly, I played Industry Giant 2, which is a game I played a lot when I was a kid. Except now I actually know how to play it. I know how to sell stuff. And I figured something out. If you can just surround a village with your storage facilities, you can really do a number on your opponent's ability to sell their items, sell their wares. It's one of those city management games, except you're managing a company, and you have to collect minerals, and you have to process them, and you have to manufacture the product, and you have to create roads and trains and shipping lanes to distribute them. And then you have to open up retail stores. My strategy was to just surround every village, every town, I should say, with farmland, because it took so much space. And my opponents, they couldn't build anything around it. And then I just, I'd cut down on needing to create roads because everything was clustered so close together. So that's been a fun game to play. I also played Cities Skyline on the PlayStation 4, as it was intended to be played.
Probably not, but okay.
No, it wasn't. It was probably intended to be played on a PC. But I had it for some reason. It's probably a PS Plus game. And yeah, that's a fun game. Except when so Boken, when your citizens complain about trash and corpse pile-ups, what are you supposed to do? What do you think?
Shoot a couple of them so they shut up?
Shoot a couple of them so they shut up. Daniel, how would you solve that problem?
I don't know.
Corpses and trash are piling up in your city. You'd think, oh, cemeteries, crematoriums, more dumps, more trash recycling bins, more ways to get rid of those. But that's actually not what you're supposed to do, because it's not so I had enough crematoriums.
It's never the obvious solution.
No, see,
That's why I was like, I don't know.
My problem wasn't that I didn't have the means of getting rid of this trash and these corpses. My problem was that my roads were too clogged up, so that people were dying faster than my cars could come and pick them up. And so I basically had a city full of dead people by the end of it, which was just growing away from that original town center. And it was really fun up until it became just, well, now I need to create a bunch of new roundabouts, and I have to create underground rails to get the people from A to B. At that point, get it out of here. I think City Skyline is one of those games that's probably way more fun to watch somebody stream. If that makes sense.
Somebody who knows what they're doing?
No, the opposite.
Okay.
I watched Titan AE. Are you guys familiar with it?
I've heard of it.
No.
It's it's a Star Wars animated movie-esque. It's like a Star Wars space opera, little, retro sci-fi future movie from the early 2000s. And it's good. It's like one of those movies that's just good. And it doesn't need to be... So, in the year 3000 and whatever, Earth is destroyed. But our main protagonist's father may or may not have created a means of bringing Earth back. And the boy may or may not be the key to activating this machine, if it does indeed exist. It does. And yeah, it's just like a fun little movie about these characters recreating Earth, or trying to. Spoilers. And it's Matt Damon voices the main protagonist. He does an okay job. Bill Pullman voices another character. Look, it's not
Bill Pullman?
He's a Loon Star from Spaceballs.
No.
He's the president in Independence Day.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's not really good in it either.
You're just triggering all the wrong movies. Like Independence Day, when you say Matt Damon, I just think of The Martian and Interstellar. All that shit.
Well, this was when he was when he was young, so he still has a bit of soul left in his voice. Hasn't completely been squeezed out of him. But if you want like a movie with like a lot of early 2000s, I don't even know, like this is just like the soundtrack is trash. It's just, oh, I have to go and find my destiny. It's just absolute trash like that. It's so on the nose and it's so lazily written, but the story is pretty good. And what more? I watched Solar Opposites. Have you guys watched this?
No, I have no idea what that is.
Bogan, have you watched this?
No.
Do you have any idea what it is?
I have watched Solar Opposites, so...
Oh. He's making fun of my my Google Docs.
Your typo?
Yeah. This is really good content for the listener, Bogan. I hope you know that.
Yes, thank you. I try.
So, it's made by Justin Roiland and McMahon. It looks exactly like Rick and Morty. And it has pretty much very similar sensibilities. Two aliens and their replicants and their pupa are stranded on Earth after planet Slorp was hit by an asteroid. And it's just like, you know Rick and Morty, which is much better written and a much smarter show than BoJack Horseman, as we agreed on before recording.
As someone that has seen both, no.
See, I think Rick and Morty, I feel really bad about it because it is, maybe we don't need to compare it to BoJack Horseman. It's a really smart show.
It is a kind
show.
of smart show, yeah.
But it is a good show.
It got memed to death by a bad fan base.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the problem. It got dragged down by a shitty fan base.
And And it's
not fair.
Yeah, it's really not. But you know how that show is... So that show is very introspective about, like, this is how animated shows work. This is how they are structured. And they toy around with that structure. Solar Opposites is similar. Like, it's pretty much Rick and Morty, except it's not humans making observations about, like, weird space. It's aliens making observations about being humans. And the humor very much comes from them trying to understand human customs, like when they build themselves a man cave, and it's like a parody of a man cave, and it doesn't really, like, it's in a man cave they have like a sign that goes, tig old biddies, but they can't get that sign, so I think they get dick bics or something like that, and it's just they're so trying to replicate human behavior, but they're getting it so wrong, and that juxtaposition is really funny. So if you want Rick and Morty, but you don't want to deal with the cringy fandom, I highly recommend Solar Opposites. Season 2 just dropped.
This sounds like an endless string of bad stand-up comedy jokes.
No, I feel I think it's smart. I think you'd enjoy it, Bogan. It may go over Daniel's head, though. No, I'm joking.
I'm not gonna dignify that with a response.
You just did. Let's see. What else did I do? Oh. Have either one of you heard about Ronald?
I've heard of multiple Ronalds. Yes.
Hopefully, no relation to Reagan.
No, it's not Ronald Reagan.
I was thinking of McDonald's, actually.
McDonald's? Okay, so I'm talking about, it's an indie game, Bogan, created by, I assume, a very passionate team who had a vision, and you just drag them down with your comparison to a soulless franchise like McDonald's. So, anyways, it takes place in a fast food restaurant called McDougal's, and it's basically... it's basically Slender Man, except you're collecting Happy Meal toys or something, and you're being chased by a clown called Ronald McDougal, I imagine, who looks eerily similar to another clown named Ronald. And the game has disappeared. I was gonna play it, but it's completely vanished from the internet. Assumably because of lawsuits. And it really hurts because I wanted to play it.
Okay. Great story.
Thank you. See, this would have been much funnier if I had played it, and I would have been able to play the joke for longer, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Thanks a lot, McDonald's.
But you didn't.
Thanks a lot, McDonald's. Do you guys think McDonald's makes good food?
No.
No?
No, me neither.
That they don't make food that you are excited or looking forward to. They make food where you're broke and you're like, well, I have to eat something.
Do you want to know a funny Icelandic thing? So, our government made like laws about if you're gonna sell food in Iceland, you have to be selling food. It can't just be trash. There are certain requirements you need to meet. And the thing about McDonald's is that they grow their own meat. And there was a McDonald's in Iceland, and they were given a choice. Either you grow your meat in Iceland and follow your corporate model, or... No, that wasn't the choice. The choice was either your meat has to pass these regulations, or you have to just buy meat from Iceland. And they decided, we're not doing that, we're just leaving. So whenever Icelanders...
Wow.
Yeah. So whenever I go out with like friends to Norway or Sweden or wherever, the first thing they always want to do is go to McDonald's. It's like, oh yeah, we gotta stop. I don't know.
It's the mystique.
Yeah, I think it's just like because we can't have it at home. No,
yes,
but
exactly.
you don't want to have it at home. It's terrible. It's so much. It's so bad.
It's FOMO. It's fear of missing out.
Yeah.
I don't agree even. I mean, but that's sure part of it. I'm certain. I feel like I've said this before, but every time I see like a fighting game player who is traveling internationally to a tournament, and then they post pictures of them going to fucking McDonald's in in Vietnam or in Dubai. And I'm like, you have so much culture around you. You could go to any fucking restaurant and try local cuisine, and you're going to McDonald's? You fucking pleb.
Yeah. Well, it's
always
familiar.
It's not even the Americans. It's also the Europeans. Even the Arab the Arab players coming to the US going to fucking South America or something. They always go to McDonald's or Subway or Burger King, and I'm like, fucking kill yourselves.
Burger King is even worse.
Is it possible that fighting game players don't have a lot of money?
It's possible, but
you know what's
is
good?
McDonald's even that cheap?
It depends on what you get.
You know,
I feel like they're just man children who have no fucking taste.
Give me I want the Szechuan sauce.
Speaking of Rick and Morty.
Yeah. Christ, and that I thought that was such a funny joke, but then the people started doing it in real life, and I was like, no, none of this.
Yeah, there was actually a really funny joke in that show.
Yeah.
Well, there was that one guy that freaked out in the McDonald's. He's like jumped up on the
Took
counter.
off his shirt.
Yeah, he's like, I am Pickle Rick, and then he's like on the floor, and he's like, Ree! The thing is, though, a lot of people thought that was real, and the guy came out later. He's like, no, I was just making fun of Rick and Morty fans.
Yeah, but oh, okay. I thought you meant like that. Oh.
He was like, no, that was not a real outburst. He was like,
so it was staged, like everyone was in on it.
No, people were not in on it.
Then it's still bad.
Oh, he was just saying that after the fact when everyone dunked on him and like, oh, I was just doing it ironically.
No, he told his friend to record it. Like he did it intentionally to create a scene, but like
that sure made Rick and Morty fans look like the idiots. They're the dumb ones, not him.
Well, I mean, his video got like millions of views, so he was laughing all the way to the bank.
True. Do you guys like KFC?
No. Their chicken is slimy.
Yeah, I used to love KFC, but it's like it's oily and slimy. It's like, what is this?
KFC used to be okay like 20 years ago. Nowadays, it is trash. I fucking hate going to KFC.
What do you think about Subway? You can add to this, Bogan.
It's serviceable.
I hate Subway. It's just bread. If I want to go
I just don't go to the big. I don't go to the big fast food chains anymore.
Whenever I go to Subway, I always have a wrap. I don't have their bread.
They yeah. What
the last time I was at McDonald's was probably 9 years ago or something.
Whoa.
And the reason I decided to just not go there anymore wasn't the food. It was I ordered something and then I realized there was like a tiny screen behind the counter on top of where they store the fucking food and shit. And I saw my order getting placed on there with a stopwatch. And it just counted the seconds until my order was finished. And then, I saw the guy at the counter just working his ass off, doing 3 orders at once, trying to get everyone their food. And then, at 40 seconds, I saw my order just started blinking aggressively, as if to hurry up, you motherfucker, work for your money. And it made me feel so bad for just whoever has to work at that place. And I was like, I cannot support this anymore in good conscience. Even outside the health concerns, it's just no.
Yeah, it's rough.
That's one of the most fucked up things I've seen or heard. I've never seen that. I've never seen that.
I never noticed that before in any other McDonald's. I don't know if they have that maybe not as visible in other places.
I don't.
But I feel like that is probably still a working stipulation there. Just get the shit done as quickly as possible. You're gonna get bad recommendations when you can't deliver the order within under a minute or something.
Ah, God, that's just fucked up. That's. I mean, I try not to go there because for one, I don't like the food.
Because you love Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks too much. We know.
I actually hardly ever go to Dunkin' Donuts, but it's also really unhealthy. The food there is not that good.
It's not food. It's trash.
But like hearing this makes me want to go even less. Like I don't know if that's even in place anymore. I don't know if they still do that, but even still. I remember the last time I went to a McDonald's. I went to drive up to one of the windows to pay, and nobody was there, and I waited for a little while, and then I drove up to the next window, and they were gonna give me my food, but I was like, oh hey, I didn't pay yet. Nobody was at the other window, and then I saw like the manager get like angry at the guy. He's like, hey you stay at that fucking window or something like that. Like, and I felt so bad, and I was just like. It's like, I didn't mean to get anyone in trouble. Like, it just made me feel like shit. And I just kind of drove away thinking like, man, that kid didn't deserve that. Like, he probably just needed to go to the bathroom or something. It's not a big deal.
Mm. What's the deal with Burger King? Why is that so bad?
Oh, I don't know. It's just terrible. The food is just, at least McDonald's food is bad, but it's at least like on some level fucking serviceable. While Burger King is like, can't even get there. It's just like, I don't know. It's just, fucking terrible. Fucking hate Burger King. And it sucks because like, I remember when I was a kid, Burger King used to be one of the better fast food chains. Like the food there was actually pretty good. For fast food, of course. Mm. But I don't know. It's... Nowadays, if I'm forced to have fast food, I always go to Wendy's because Wendy's is the least terrible of the fast food burger joints.
Because you have Twitter thirst?
No, it's not because of the fucking like Twitter handle chick or whatever.
What's the deal with Chick-fil-A? We don't have that in Iceland. I hear nothing but good things about their food.
I mean, like I said, there's not one nearby me, so if I want to, I would have to do like a 20-minute drive just to get to one. I don't do that. So there's a lot of
old people in Florida, right?
Yes.
You probably get like, you can go probably to any fast food and get like the early bird special. Can talk to us about that?
No. There's no early bird special.
Maybe if I'm ever in Florida, I want you to take me to a taqueria.
There is no taqueria around here.
What?
I don't know.
Coming to Florida.
I don't even know what that is.
The taco place. I don't know. I thought they're called taquerias.
You mean Taco Bell?
No, I don't mean Taco Bell. I mean an actual taco restaurant.
Sure, you don't mean Taco Bell?
There's no taquerias around. Okay.
Are you telling me I can only get tacos at Taco Bell and nowhere else?
Well, no, you can get tacos around here. Okay, you do know that Cuban cuisine does not consist of tacos, right?
No.
Right, Boken?
I wasn't even referring specifically to Florida. I was just saying this is a thing in America I don't have here.
Boken, did you think that all Cuban or did you think that Hispanic cuisine
I was not thinking about Cubans or Hispanics at all. I was just saying when I come to America, I want to eat a taco.
I can take you to places that have good tacos that are far better than Taco Bell. Yes.
There's
not the place that you're referring to specifically, but I could take you to a good taco place. Yes.
I am not referring to anything. Like, I just thought that it's called a taqueria where you have a taco specialized restaurant. And that's not a fast food garbage joint.
Okay. I didn't know that's I've never heard that term before.
I heard that in some podcasts before. I don't know.
Okay, well, I can take you to good taco places, yes.
Did you guys know there are some pizzerias where you can just make your own pizza?
Yeah, there is. I've been to a few of those.
Oh, we don't have them.
There's,
Why?
'cause it's good.
I don't want to do the work. I just
No,
wanna
no,
eat.
you don't. No, you don't do the work. They'll like prepare it for you.
Oh well, yeah, of course. I can
No,
order
I'm-
pizza and
Yeah, I meant the ones where you do the work.
No, okay, no. The ones that I go to, you don't do the work. So like there's a few that I've been to. There's Mod Pizza, and what the fuck is the other one called? Custom Pizza or some shit like that.
Isn't it Mod Pizza and Rockers Pizza?
upgrade your pizza.
Anyways, so the way that it works is when you go, they'll ask you what kind of dough you want, and then they'll like put like a garlic butter glaze on there or whatever if you feel like it, and then you choose what kind of sauce you want and how much sauce, what type of cheese, and then you choose the toppings, and then they have like an oven behind them and they put it there, and then you just wait for your order.
That may be what I was talking about. I thought when you corrected yourself, Daniel, that you just meant like you order your toppings and then you wait.
No, you're there throughout the process, but there's someone behind the counter that's like doing it for you.
Yeah, that's probably.
Yeah,
what
I don't
meant.
go to a pizza place to make my own fucking pizza. Like,
What I really
Fuck
like
off.
about these places is that the crust is like extremely thin. I really like the really, really thin crust. Nice and crunchy.
I like deep pan pizzas. I think that's the best way to have a pizza.
No, too much bread.
See, I used to do at Domino's here every Tuesday. They'd have like a deep pan pizza for like 1,000 kroners or whatever. And when I was in high school, I used to get that offer every week. Just buy one of those, and I'd keep it in my locker at school. And the next day, the entire floor would smell like pizza. And all the kids would just be like, "Oh, I'm so defeated and tired, and now I have to go to school." And I'd be there just eating my pizza early in the morning, like, "Oh, yeah, hey everyone."
You fiend.
Yeah. Anyways, this
So
has
we're
been
gonna-
my Ronald talk, a game
right.
that no longer exists. So we're gonna take a quick break. And then we're going to go to the topic about game versus story. I didn't forget.
Okay.
Okay. Stick around.
okay.
Ba-da-da-da-ba-ba. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Wasn't that a good break, everyone? Now, the topic. Game versus story. Question mark?
Isn't that gameplay versus story?
Gameplay
Yes.
versus story. Question mark? I think that went over pretty well. Okay, so
Obligatory. I'm gonna edit this out. Comment, and then you don't edit it out.
am I don't think I'm the one editing, am I?
I have no idea. You guys decide.
Anyway, so you know how okay, we briefly talked about this before we started recording. Video games are the only medium where the distinction between the language of the form and story is made. Like
Yes.
people don't generally say people don't generally separate visuals and story in movies. They don't separate text and story in books. It's only in video games where we have this. You have gameplay over here, and then you have story. I have for a really long time maintained that games like Majora's Mask, which go a really long way to make the gameplay tell the story, where the threat is gameplay, where the advancing through the world is contextualized with gameplay. I've maintained that those are the optimal ways of making games, and I would like games to become that.
So I do think there's an exception though. I was just thinking about it. where I do think that there is a distinction made between the music and the story of concept albums. So, like...
I'm not familiar enough with music to have a word on this.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is basically that you'll have situations where you'll have an album that is telling a really good story, but the music is compromised in order to tell that story, or in order to convey something about the story. This is a problem that I have with one of my favorite bands, the Mars Volta, where even though I love Francis the Mute, and Francis the Mute has a killer story, I do think that the album is a little not even a little, it's very self-indulgent about trying to establish the atmosphere for the story. So much so that there's literally, for the title track, 4 fucking minutes of bells ringing. Just bells ringing for the sake of like the atmosphere of the story before any music starts actually playing. And I'm just like...
And that's inside the same track?
Yes.
Oh,
I would still say though. Yes, it is, but that is still music trying to tell the story.
It is, but the music, it's being compromised for the sake of the story. They're not working well in unison.
No, but I think there's a difference between that and you playing a game and then you're not playing a game anymore. You're watching a movie so the characters can go from A to B.
Yes, there's a stronger delineation in video games between the story and the gameplay.
But I like your comparison because I also have those albums where it's like, okay, you can tell a story, but if I want to listen to an album and every second track is some sort of midro that is only there to convey part of the story that you couldn't write into your actual songs, and it's not actual that compelling music that I want from that band, and I need to skip that track every time, that's annoying as fuck. And then in your example, you can't even skip that track because it's part of the track, which is fuck?
I have to manually scrub to like the 4-minute mark to get to the fucking song. So, and an album that I think does a great job of being both musically interesting to listen to and has a great story is Dream Theater's Scenes from a Memory, where the music is awesome. The music is awesome, and it's a really good story. Both work well together. Neither are in each other's way. You get... If you want a great story, you can really pay attention to the lyrics, and the music goes well with what the lyrics are saying, and the music itself is phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Scenes from Memory is like one of my favorite albums of all time, so I am definitely biased, but whatever. I still think it's a good example of a concept album where it's not getting in its own way.
And then, funnily enough, there's an album by the band Angra. It's called Temple of Shadows. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. But you can totally miss the story because the tracks themselves leave out a lot of the context of what is actually happening in the story. And it's just like snapshots of what's happening right now. And then the actual story is told, I think, within the booklet. So you need to do extra reading outside of the actual piece of media to understand what the fuck is going on.
They did the same for Donnie Darko, where you had to visit their website. But we're talking about video games.
Also, that happens in Destiny, where you need to read up in like the space wiki on what the fuck is happening.
I mean, I don't know if this is a controversial opinion. I hate shit like that.
They did the same thing for the Blair Witch Project too, Bogan, your favorite movie. And now Bogan's gonna defend the practice. Watch as he backpedals.
I don't know. I mean, I know there was some kind of website, but I didn't need that to enjoy the movie.
Yeah, that's different. Like that's supplementary.
It's not like that movie had a deep story. that movie is all atmosphere and execution.
But when I say that about Hollow Knight, you get so mad.
Yeah, bringing it back to video games, though, Boken, I know that you're a big Legacy of Kain fan. I think you'll agree with me that Legacy of Kain has a phenomenal story, but the gameplay, not so phenomenal.
Sure. I also would have never grasped the whole story if I didn't read an actual wiki on it. But you're not supposed to. It's just really, it's just told in a very difficult way to follow.
There are games which have no story. I think the delineation occurred because originally games didn't have story. You had stuff like Tetris. You like, that's not a metaphor for anything. That's just you're locating blocks. You had Pac-Man. Yeah, it's a story about chasing and running away from ghosts. No, it's not. It's just, it started out as devoid of story, and I think when we really get story, especially when we go into 3D, the impulse to just do cutscenes to make it more cinematic, I think that kind of that's where the split happens.
See, I don't know if I totally agree. Like, okay, we can argue whether or not there's anything intentionally being said, but I'd say even something like Tetris is conveying something.
I don't think it's conveying a story. I think it's like I think you can read a story out of it, but it's not telling a story.
I agree that it's not telling a story. That's true.
And
but I think if you wanted to, you could read something from it.
Sure. Yeah, it does annoy me when I'm on Twitter and somebody goes like, "Oh yeah, well this gameplay versus like." I don't like the delineation. I think that
I feel like that is also. I mean, yeah, Tetris didn't have a story. Pong probably doesn't have a story, and I feel like maybe it's just that the medium is still relatively young, but for a long time, people didn't expect a story from games. Like
That's
that was not even just, okay, they have a basic framework of narration. Who gives a shit? Might as well not be there. Especially in the early, SNES, NES times, it's just a bunch of levels strewn together.
Yeah. And I think that's why games like the early Final Fantasy games really stood out, because for a lot of people, that was like the first time a game had a story that had substance to it. And people are like, oh, shit, this is actually like doing something. This is saying something. You look back on those, Final Fantasy now, like the older games, and it's like extremely rudimentary. But for the time, it was like really big, just because it was a vast fucking wasteland of games that were just wholly focused on game mechanics and not on any type of narrative.
And so now we have like these remnants of people still going, oh, story is not important. We're making a game where we say, fuck the story, let's kill demons.
See, I think there is merit to that, though. There are games where you can just have the basic context of you are a guy who kills demons and then just execute on that.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a game that is literally just let's kill demons, because fuck it. Sometimes I don't want to play a game with a story. Sometimes I do want to just kill demons.
I think you can try and make even turn that concept into some kind of nicely told story. I want you to at least try.
Sure, but
I don't think there's anything wrong with not trying, though.
No, but that is just going to lead to a game that I would never consider. I probably would not consider among my favorites, because it's missing a vital part of
but there are people. That's like the inverse of I don't care about the story.
No, it's not the inverse. I just want a complete package.
Yeah,
I'm playing Monster Hunter right now. The story, nobody gives a shit. But if the story is actually cool, even if there's just little tidbits for me to latch onto with nice characters or like smart little moments, that is like, then I have a good Monster Hunter game, and it has nice story moments on top that is just gonna make the game even greater.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would much rather prefer that to have the best of both worlds, but I don't think there is inherently anything wrong with saying, I just want one aspect of this. I think you can
there's
probably...
a purity. I think there's a purity in making it like having an idea for a game and just executing on it and having like no distractions. It's it wants to just achieve that one thing.
I think the golden execution comes from the story being, or maybe the ambience or lore or whatever, being so integrated into the experience that you don't even recognize that it's happening. Well, you recognize it, but it's so well threaded into the rest of the package.
See, I find that a lot of games have a lot more difficulty in merging the story and the gameplay in a way that feels seamless.
Yeah. These are your walking sections. These are, you need to wait while characters exhaust their dialogues.
Even very minimalist games like the Team Ico games still have cutscenes. They still have moments where you put the controller down and you watch the characters talk.
Yeah. I think the most powerful moments in those games are always the ones where you are playing. I think they do better than most. But even like the separation on the bridge, like that isn't like, you play as Eco and you jump, but when it comes to showing you Eco falling, it is a cutscene. Wander's downfall at the end of Shadow of the Colossus, again, it is a cutscene.
Yeah, so at the end of the thing with Shadow of the Colossus, though, is towards the end, I feel that it only works specifically because of all the interactivity that built up beforehand. So you have that moment with the horse. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone that hasn't played the game. If you didn't rely so much on Agro, the horse, throughout the entire game, I don't think that final cutscene with the horse would have hit as hard. It's specifically because you have developed a relationship with the horse, and because the horse has proven itself to be vital to the gameplay experience, and is what makes that scene at the end so impactful.
Yeah, I think the same is true of...
I want to talk about that specific thing, because imagine if that scene was actual gameplay.
Where you play as Mono?
No, where you play as Wander.
But he's an infant then.
And the horse... Okay, well, we're going to spoil it. I need to spoil it.
I guess we have to spoil it. Okay.
The horse... You kind of did already. The horse dies.
I didn't.
The horse somewhat
Falls.
sacrifices it. Yeah, right, it doesn't even die. The horse falls to get you over, I think, a destroyed bridge or something.
A collapsing bridge, yeah.
Yeah. And imagine if that was part of natural gameplay, where you need to, like, mechanically, you can only make it over there when jumping off the horse. And I can just see, like, that would be cool, but at the same time, I can totally see people getting really mad at that, because now they feel like they are being guilt-tripped into killing the horse, and then there would be other people who should try 1 billion times to find a way to not kill the horse.
I think that specific example, I get what you mean, but the point of the scene is that Agro sacrifices herself. If you're jumping off the horse, then you're just leaving the horse, like you leave Yoshi. Whereas the point of the scene is that Agro makes a sacrifice.
That is true.
Yeah, and that's a really good distinction. It is Agro as her own character making a decision to help her friend, basically.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like that moment always was a little bit undercut, because it's one of very few cutscenes in the game. So the moment that started playing, I was like, oh, something is gonna happen. You can kind of tell that they are going to force some narrative development on you by taking the reins literally away from you.
Yeah, but like you just said, if they didn't take the reins, then I think it would completely change the way that people would see that moment. They wouldn't see it as this like great sacrifice that Agro is making. They're gonna feel like the player did something wrong, and they're like gonna try and they're gonna restart it so that they can save the horse.
Maybe you could lose control of the horse, and the horse acts on its own.
I was gonna say,
but it's not a cutscene; it's still within gameplay. That would be definitely possible.
Yeah, and I think even something just like she automatically kicks you off her, and then Wander like. When he lands, you still have control over him, but the camera is looking at Agro, and Wander is turned to her. I think that maybe plays a bit better, but
I don't know. I think that scene needed that touch of cinematography in order to capture like Wander's like melancholy over the loss of his horse.
I want to say though, with this, I don't hate seeing like a wall of text in a movie. It can do great things. Like the Star Wars movies all open that way. I don't mind cutscene in movies. Cutscenes in video games. What I mind is playing The Last of Us 2, and I can't play this game for any bit of time. Because it is so inundated with movies. This is why I specifically didn't like it, if you recall that argument.
Movies.
It's either movies or pretend movies. Like, at what point, like, what part of this needed to be a video game?
God,
the parts that actually, we said this already, when you actually get to the video game part, it does get significantly better. But they definitely paced that out very poorly in the beginning.
Yeah, the more I think back on The Last of Us 2, the more I'm like, man, that game just did not need to exist, period.
And it goes to all the Uncharted's as well. And like, look, if you enjoy those, more power to you. But I always, like I said earlier, I always go back to the Majora's Masks, where it's at least making that much more of an effort to integrate the storytelling into how the game is played. Same with Eco, where it's like the point is holding hands with an AI. You're building a relationship with her. Same with The Last Guardian. But yeah, I mean, a cutscene can do things gameplay just can't. And utilizing each for what they do better, of course. But I think too much of video games is just the gameplay is for combat in between watching movies.
Yeah, totally. And that's why I feel like these the sort of Puritan, I only want gameplay, fuck the story. I understand it, but I feel like that is on its way out.
Yeah.
I feel like that is just as games grow older and people start experimenting more with how gameplay and story can really be married, that idea is just going to go away.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any problems with someone that's just like, hey, I don't care about story. I just want to play a fun game. Like, I can respect that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
But it's on the developers to maybe also give something, that little narrative extra, even if they want to make a gameplay-focused game.
It's only if the developers want to. Like, I feel like...
Obviously, yes, everything is only if they want to. We're not forcing anyone. We're not pointing a gun at anyone.
Obviously.
You can do whatever the fuck you want, but I'm talking about what I actually like, the really great games. And no great game of mine in my top 10, I think, has a neglectable or like no story at all. I need to go through the top 10
What about
again,
Legacy of Kain?
I'd probably agree. I can't think of any, like if I were to name my top 10, I wouldn't know what my top 10 are, but if I would, I don't think I could name one that has like absolutely no story at all.
The closest in my top 10 would be Jedi Outcast, and that has yeah.
Well, I mean, even that has a story. It's not
even
a great
that has
story.
memorable characters.
Kyle Katarn's pretty awesome. Cannot deny his swag.
Dizan was also pretty cool. And when Luke Skywalker shows up and he has a green lightsaber and he kills a bunch of Sith, that's pretty awesome.
Do you have a Popco Funko vinyl pop figure of that? I hate those. Those things exist solely to be landfill fodder.
One thing that does bother me though is the vibe I get from some people who are like focused on gameplay is there's like a weird bit of elitism that comes with it. It's like, it's this idea that like I'm more pure because I focus on what games are really about. And I'm like, no, you're being a dickhead. It's totally fine if you only care about the gameplay. That in and of itself is totally fine. But again, I just feel that some people think that makes them more pure or something. It's like, no, shut up.
And it doesn't even need to be like, so like even something like Devil May Cry, sure, it has cutscenes, but like the gameplay there does tell, it does at least characterize Dante as stylish. And that's way more than you get in most action games. So there, like, even if you're like, I would imagine that sort of.
It's not even just that the combat system characterizes Dante as stylish, but it incentivizes the player to be stylish because it lines up with Dante's personality.
Yeah.
Also, with V, who can't fight on his own and needs to rely on the animal companions.
Yeah.
And then there was this whole bit that where he needs to regain those animal companions, which wasn't handled perfectly, but yeah, if that really works out, then I'm like, hey,
and it's experimentation.
And on the other end, we have Kratos' combat style is very brutal, very well, I think the Blades of Chaos flies in the face of that just a little bit because the blades, while are a cool and unique weapon, require a lot of finesse, which is a little weird for Kratos, but at the same time, there are still a lot of very brutal animations, very visceral, like stabbing in the mouth or whatever, like stuff like that really gets across his character.
There are other weapons in God of War.
There are,
but they're all equally like brutal.
And the giant sword and shit.
Okay, but the Blades of Chaos are his staple weapon, and
I think they are kind of weird for Kratos. Like they're these whip-like sort of weapons that you don't really naturally associate with that kind of character.
Right. So I get what they were going for. I just think it stumbles a little bit in how they characterize him. But ignoring that, otherwise, his animations during combat are very visceral and brutal, which is in line with his character.
Yeah, but you don't even need to like it may stumble, but you can make a direct comparison between that and the way they try to characterize him now. If you don't watch the cutscenes in the new God of War, I can't imagine what you think Kratos is.
Yeah.
Character-wise.
Yeah, I could see that.
I
mean, I'm pretty sure you can't skip the cutscenes regardless.
Well, there's also like mandatory walking or listening to your son sections.
Just people yelling at each other while walking.
But it could have been, again, it could have gone back to make him play as more contemplative, and then he's going to feel more contemplative. This is why I think this is why all three of us actually, we champion the AA games, because they're big enough that they can make something interesting and experimental, but small enough that even if it doesn't work out, it doesn't sell it doesn't need 20 million copies sold to justify its existence.
Like Nier Automata. Like, I think that game is a perfect example of
like Nier Automata, like Demon Souls, like pretty much
like Hellblade.
Like
Hellblade's a good
most
one.
of the great games of last year's, it always goes back to comparatively smaller studios that are able to do experimental things because they don't have to justify a $150 million budget.
Yeah, but that's us. That's not the gaming mainstream. The gaming mainstream is so focused on these highly marketed, safe titles That they don't give a shit. Look at the Game Awards and what is actually like nominated for Game of the Year. It's always 4 action adventure open world role playing games with the biggest names from the biggest developers and publishers, and then 1 indie game that really had a hit.
Yeah.
I feel like if you just look at Sony's exclusives, all of them represent the like AAA prestige game. It is your Days Gone, your Horizon Zero Dawn. Even though Red Dead Redemption is not an exclusive, it still represents that like AAA prestige. And I'm not necessarily like criticizing these games or saying that they're bad games, but they all fit in the same kind of homogenous space.
And surely the class that awards like exceptional greatness and, you know, experimentation in the industry, like the best game of the year should not even have to consider nominating The Last of Us. Obviously, that isn't the best game. Like it is so repeating very safe formulas of how to make a game.
You want to go back and see how many awards Last of Us 2 won?
Yeah, and that goes to
best
I
story.
think.
Blah.
Yeah, but that goes to like the class that picks the best games. I don't think it is very literate in what makes games interesting, because they keep rewarding these games that are so either it's just again it's Ghost of Tsushima. It's not what we like, I guess.
But it's okay. But we're talking about gameplay versus story, and Last of Us 2. The writing is a big part of why that game series became so great, or like not great, but popular. Even though it's very mediocre writing, in my opinion, and not particularly well done. The more I think about it,
what, the first one or the second one?
Both. I mean, the first one I was already there, where I didn't like it very much. But thinking about the second one,
I don't think it's.
I don't think I agree with the first one, but I definitely agree that the second one. Not that I think the first one has like amazing writing, but I think the first one's writing is pretty solid. While I think the second one's writing is extremely sloppy and unfocused, and it's trying to do too much, and it's not succeeding.
Yeah, but even then, it's not in the game. It's not told to you by how you play. Outside of like combat can be desperate, but also you don't really need to care for Ellie. She takes care of herself during combat for the most part.
Yeah. And they had different ambitions for that in the first one, as far as I'm aware, but it just didn't work out, and now you have one more game with a sidekick character that you can talk to that is not part of the gameplay at all.
You know what I want if they do a Last of Us 3? Do the inverse. Have Ellie be taken care of like an infant. A genuine crying infant who, if you run too fast, like, you know, at Death Stranding, it actually was kind of engaging just walking around because there were systems that facilitated that being interesting. Do that with an infant. And if you're not careful with taking your steps, the infant starts crying and the zombies come at you. Do something like that.
I just don't want Ellie back.
No.
I think the biggest problem with
Last of Us 3,
I understand what you're saying.
I
understand what you're saying, but like I think the biggest problem with Last of Us 2 was that they were trying to appeal to the lizard part of our brains. They're like, oh, I like Ellie, I like Joel, I see them again, yay! And it's like, no, we need new. If you're gonna bring back The Last of Us, how about new characters? Take us to another part of the country. You know, it's different struggles that these characters go through. Something totally different. Why do we have to see these characters again? It ruins the ambiguity of the ending of the first game. Nothing that we saw in the sequel, in my opinion, justifies ruining the ambiguity of the ending of the first game. Nothing.
Yeah.
Look, Asa, the problem with your suggestion is that people love sidekick characters, but people hate escort quests. and people don't want to take care of side quests of those sidekick characters.
You say that, but I think if you make it good, people will adapt to it. Like if you have
Resident
to hide...
Evil 4 is basically one giant escort mission, and it's considered one of the greatest games of all time.
I feel like there are a lot of parts of Resident Evil 4 where you don't need to take care of Ashley.
Okay, all right. You don't take care of her for like 100% of the game, but you do take care of her for at least like 40% of the game. At least 40%. That's a huge chunk of the game, and it's handled great. You don't feel like she's in the way. You don't feel like she's constantly getting attacked, and when you do, you feel like it's more your fault. And then also look at Ico. Ico is actually one giant escort mission, and is also considered one of the greatest games ever.
No, that's not a mainstream game, Daniel.
It's okay, fine. It's not a mainstream game, but
remember
it is.
Yoshi's Island? That's a great game, but despite the fact that you have to fucking catch Baby Mario every time you get hit.
Yeah, but
that is a mainstream game, or it was.
Yeah, it is, and people complain about that all the time.
Well,
yeah, but
maybe
see,
they should get good.
Yeah, but this is also, people don't know what they want. I think people think they don't like escort quests, but the alternative is worse.
I agree, but
the alternative of escorts, which have no stakes.
Publishers also don't know what new things people want, so they tell people that they want all the old things and the safe things, and then they market that to them, and then that's what we get.
Okay, the reason why people hate escort missions isn't because of the idea of escort missions in and of themselves. It's because they've been poorly implemented, and the reason why so many of them are poorly implemented is because of bad AI.
Or also just like, I want to play the action game. I don't want to play the escort game.
Sure, but
that goes again to direction, though.
Okay, but here's the thing: 9 times out of 10, the reason why people get frustrated with escort missions is because they feel that they are being punished for something that isn't their fault. Why should they be punished because the bad AI did something dumb?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But so far, this has been solved by making the escort characters as much a non-factor in gameplay as possible.
To the point where it may not even be an escort.
Sorry, what?
To the point where, why is this even an escort?
Yeah, exactly. And so now we have like these Uncharted games where you constantly have some asshole running up the mountain next to you, just telling you bad jokes. But you don't have to take care of them at all. They're just there to
I think that makes sense in an Uncharted, because taking care of somebody isn't what Uncharted is about. That's more about like the sort of schlocky, old-fashioned action adventure fighting. But I'd say more specifically, if the example is The Last of Us, it makes way more sense to have stakes to sidekicks there.
Well, it's an indication in Uncharted that developers just don't really have ideas on how to deliver a story or sort of build characters without actually having another character talk to you. It's either that, or it's like a walkie-talkie radio situation. But they don't know how to have gameplay that is at least somewhat fluid and dialogue at the same time.
Yeah, I think dialogue just isn't something games are good at. Like, games are really good at making you do things, and stories in games should be about doing those things. Again, Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, like even with Hollow Knight, that's like, I made the joke that that's more of an ambience than a story, but that is a much better utility of gameplay than if you were just, if the developers had forced your guy in Hollow Knight to just sit down and listen to somebody talk at him.
Games can actually be very good at dialogue when you have an RPG where you can choose your dialogue options.
Yeah, sure, but that's I would say that's a different genre, though.
Yeah, totally.
I'm talking more about like your Uncharted. I don't think you can glue dialogue onto that well. maybe there's a way to do it, but it's like, again, story versus gameplay. If you want to marry the two, then the story must be told through how you play. And I think it's logistically very difficult to make dialogue play well.
What about when dialogue is being spoken during gameplay?
Well, that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, see, I don't dislike the idea of being with a character walking, like you're in Uncharted, and they're having a conversation. I don't dislike that on paper. I dislike it that is, like, the motivation for the story is all just people come at you and shoot you, and then you watch a movie, and then they have banter. The banter is fine. But I don't mind that. I mind that the story isn't more in your own hands.
Well, I mind that very much, because the banter is just most of the time bad filler.
Okay, but that depends on the writing of the game.
No, I feel like the banter has the function of making the player not bored and filling dead air, which I feel doesn't need to be filled if you have an interesting atmosphere. In Uncharted, that is all the fucking banter does. It's just bad jokes and quippy dialogue to fill dead air.
I think it can definitely become a crutch.
But what I'm saying is, if it's good dialogue, then you wouldn't see it so negatively.
Then you still have the issue that it's presented in a way where you are actually just walking, and you don't. The characters aren't even turned to one another. It's just, one character is 50 feet away and they're still talking because that's the game.
Yeah, I always felt like Drake should start shouting when you move further away rather than just stop talking.
I think it's more of an issue in something like Uncharted, because the way that those games are paced, it's like, it's very linear and it's just about going through the game, while maybe something like in an RPG where it's more about exploring a vast world or something, I think occasionally having the characters banter with each other, I think that works better by comparison, because it's due to the non-linearity of games like that. And if you're traveling around with a party of characters, it would make sense for them to, like, if they're, traveling from one town to the next, that they occasionally would be like, talking about whatever. And I think that can add to those characters. It can make them feel like this is a group of friends, or maybe they're not friends and maybe they're bickering about something. It adds something dynamic to the relationships between the characters. And it doesn't need to be something that is acknowledged in, like, the main plot. It's just meant to get you to feel like these characters better. You get an idea of what their personalities are like.
No, of course I don't want characters to not talk to each other. It's just the way it is presented in most current AAA games. Like, even if you have a game for, like, take Spider-Man, for example, Spider-Man 2016, where you swing around the city and you have these stupid radio conversations with a bunch of characters. And they even went to the trouble of recording every single voice line in the game twice. One when Spider-Man is standing and one when he's swinging around, and then the voice actor sounds out of breath, right? To accommodate for the fact that he's actually traveling while talking to them. That doesn't change the fact that it's just two voices, two disembodied voices talking to each other while you do fuck else. And that is just not involved.
In programming terms, you are just waiting for a timer to run down so that the next objective unlocks. Whereas it could be something more interesting. It could go into some piece of gameplay. It's a crutch, these walkie-talkies.
Yeah.
I think it can be a crutch, but
it can be a crutch. Yeah.
I think it comes down.
It is a crutch in most games right now.
Yeah, I would say it probably is a crutch in most games. I think there are good utilities of it, though. I wouldn't discount it out of hand.
See, because I'm always thinking of the Tales series, because of course I am. because I'm a
Nerd.
fucking nerd, whatever. But like
Weep.
in those games, you have to the credit of the series, they're optional. You have to press a button. It appears as like an option at the bottom of the screen. You could press it if you feel like it, and you can hear, you could see a little like dialogue sequence between the characters. But I always really loved and appreciated that because it felt like it was adding to the experience of, like, let's say there's like a huge plot revelation. And I always thought that it was weird in these RPGs where there would be a big plot revelation, and then afterwards the characters would just be running around like completely silent and not saying anything about what just happened. So I always really appreciated that in this series. Let's say, oh, it turns out that the villain is actually the main character's brother or something crazy like that. Typically after the cutscene, you would get a little skit dialogue sequence afterwards that's optional, and you could press it, and then the character would be like, oh my god, I can't believe that was my brother. And then another character would be like, wow, I had no idea, or whatever. They'd say something about it, and it made me feel like these were real people. These are actual like characters with agency in the story, rather than, you know, they were characters during cutscenes and then they were just like dolls afterwards.
Yeah.
Sure, but then when that cutscene is over and they're still talking about it, then you still, I at least would probably still have the issue that, no, I'm back to normal gameplay. I'm fucking looking at flowers and picking up some seeds right now while these characters are still talking about this topic. And it's just a total disconnect because both systems aren't really married to one another.
They're not married, but I still like how it works in the Tales series. Again, I think it just adds to the characters.
I think there needs to be
Hold on,
there
someone's
need
at
to
my
be
door.
better options.
Hold on, someone's at my fucking door.
How reprehensible of
How
him.
unprofessional.
How unprofessional of him. I would never.
That's what
do
we
this.
said when you went.
But I had to go.
I see.
I had no choice. And in a way, that makes me the most professional of us all.
Yeah.
I knew when to balance work-life better. Or something. Okay, Daniel is back.
Sorry about that.
Did you beat them up for interrupting you?
I suplexed them over a table.
Yeah! So, gameplay versus story. Ultimately, I think we all three like when there's a better convergence rather than this idea that you need to separate the two.
Yeah.
If you want, there's like, I think the indie scene is so rife with games that are doing so many crazy, innovative things with the form. I think it's gonna trickle up eventually.
I notice with indie games, however, they either lean very far in one direction or the other. It's either an extremely gameplay-centric game or an extremely story-centric game.
I think there's, again, just more experimentation in general.
Sure.
Yeah. This is why, yeah.
When I would feel that sometimes it does trickle up. I mean, Dark Souls has had a profound impact on video game storytelling.
Sure. That's a more, yeah. And that, like, Dark Souls even trickled down to how indie games are made. Like, I don't know if Hollow Knight is explicitly drawing on Dark Souls, but I feel like it's very ambient. It's very much you for long stretches of time by yourself, and just you and the world. You have runaway successes every now and then. You have these are your Minecrafts. But ultimately, I think that the larger games are, the harder it is to justify to publishers, to financiers, that you're also going to be experimentational. And this is why I always like the AA games when they come.
Yeah, I think AA have not quite the budget of the AAA, but they have enough money to do what they want, and have the same like design sensibilities and experimentation of like the indie. It's like a nice like compromise between the two.
Mm-hmm. Especially when like it used to be Eco and San Andreas, they ran on the same system, and I don't care what anyone says, I can't see the difference in the budget. Right? They both managed to take absolute full advantage of the machinery. That doesn't happen anymore. Now, having an extra $50 million budget, it's very apparent.
Yeah, I could see what you're saying, where like the new Call of Duty and like the game I was talking about earlier, Adios. Like there is clearly a huge gulf.
Yeah, and it's only going to grow wider as games get bigger, which is not great for AA's, as we all know, but swings and roundabouts, hopefully. What have you guys been doing?
Well, I am finally nearing the end of the creative process for my Silent Hill 4 video.
Yes.
We're in the final stretch of editing, so hopefully that comes out sooner rather than later. Yay!
Yay!
Like I mentioned before, I'm kicking around the idea of doing a video on Adios. Not 100% certain on that, but it's something I'd like to do. And I'd also want to work on that Lisa video. So,
oh yeah,
that one's going to be tricky because I've never done like a commentary type of video. So,
no,
yeah, we'll see how that turns out.
I'm excited. Bogan, do you have something to update us on?
Yes, I've actually done half of my audio recording for the BoJack video, and I'm hoping to get the rest done tomorrow and the day after.
You should do a Rick and Morty. You should do a Rick and Morty video too, as like a supplementary.
I will not.
Going back to our joke. Okay, I'm excited. Progress. What happened?
I had a couple days off because it's Easter.
Oh! Steve Bogan, Jesus Christ really does save, after all.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you know when that video is going to be ready, or?
No.
No. That's fine. I released a couple of Bloodborne videos, probably a month ago when this goes up. I can't tell you how lighter I feel having those off my back finally. Like, and like the rendering problems that occurred with it. I had my computer rendering it, and I had a fan blowing on my computer to keep it from overheating, and it was active for 5 days trying to get a render, and that render destroyed itself after an hour. So I had to do it again.
You should try undervolting your CPU.
You said as much, but I'm afraid that I'm going to burn my house down if I try to mess with hardware or with the.
It's not that hard. You just got to go into the BIOS and.
Wait,
what?
It took you 5 days to render a video?
Mm-hmm.
Did you just say that?
Yeah, it was 180 gigs. So I tried.
Nuts.
That is nuts. The thing is, my recorder, the grabber or whatever I used to record the raw footage, the gameplay footage, it didn't have locked to 30 frames per second by default, and so the video would go from like, it's Bloodborne, so it'd go from 24 to 28 to 30, and it would just like, it was never quite consistent, and whenever I rendered it, my renderer would try to force it to be 30 frames per second, and it do this by dropping frames and by it looked so unpleasant. So I had to go and I had to render it in 4K at 60 frames per second, and then it would work. But then I was able to render it in standard Bloodborne resolution, 60 frames per second, and get it on YouTube without massive frame drops. There is a part at the end where the video becomes super blurry for no reason. But it's during like the late end, and you can only really see it in like the font. And nobody's commented on it, and no one ever will. They'll never figure it out. And when I was reviewing my video, I was like, I've reviewed 7 hours and 20 minutes of it, and then like the final 10 seconds I saw the blur happen, and I was like, no, fuck this, I'm not doing it again, I'm releasing it as is. So yeah, hopefully... Oh, and I hope at the end of... It's April now. I hope at the end of April to be able to release the demo for my game. I want to see what parts of it people respond well to and what parts they don't. And then it's on to Shadow Tower and whatever other video I make.
Cool.
Yeah.
This has been...
Thank you. This has been the Essays and Espresso podcast. Tactical espionage action.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, dun, coffee. Signing out. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.